Welcome to my first video. Now, I was deciding whether or not I wanted to do something regarding video games or history for my first video, so I decided that I would do something regarding history. And today, our topic is the Waco, Texas standoff of 1993. On February 28, 1993, near a compound in Waco, Texas, the ATF prepared to serve a search and arrest warrant on the Mount Carmel compound, home of the Branch Davidians led by the charismatic David Koresh. The ATF was serving this warrant based on suspected weapon violations. The ATF, having scouted out the compound for about a month at this point, had devised a plan they called Operation Showtime. The ATF would arrive in 2 cattle trailers armed to the teeth in preparation for possible resistance. One team would move up to the front door, one would go around back and break into the weapons room and neutralize 2 dogs in a caged area that could possibly cause problems for the raid. It was also planned that 2 helicopters would fly over the compound and keep an eye on it during the raid. When the ATF arrived, what happened fell into opinion. The government says that the Branch Davidians opened fire on the agents, and the Branch Davidians say that the agents opened fire on them. It is believed that the first shots were fired at the dogs behind the compound. During a 40-minute firefight, several people were injured on both sides. 4 federal agents had been shot dead, along with 6 Branch Davidians. So began the 51-day siege of Mount Carmel in Waco, Texas, an event that has gone down in the history books. The Branch Davidians are a religious split of the Shepherd's Rod, a split-off of the Seventh-day Adventist religion. The Branch Davidians believed in an imminent apocalypse. They believed that David Koresh was the lamb depicted in the Bible to open up the 7 seals that would bring about the end of the world. David Koresh, being seen as the Lamb of God, abused that to take advantage of his followers. When David Koresh was 19, he married a 15-year-old girl in the compound, who shortly after became pregnant. David Koresh did not have just one wife. He had 5 wives, and produced 12 children with those wives. This wouldn't come out for 14 years, in an article called The Sinful Messiah, published by the Waco Tribune, on February 27, 1993, one day before the siege. The self-proclaimed son of God, David Koresh was obsessed with guns, music, and God. Mount Carmel stockpiled weapons, ammunition, mostly AK-47s and other rifles with handguns in between. All of them were semi-automatic, which means that they cannot shoot round after round with one pull of a trigger. Mount Carmel, in regards to firearms, was acting fully inside the law. That was until a hand grenade on its way to the compound was discovered by a mail driver, who reported it to the ATF. When the ATF went to a judge for a search warrant, they specified that they believed the Branch Davidians were converting semi-automatic AK-47s into automatic AK-47s with upper and lower receiver parts, which was deemed later to be false. With their search warrant, the ATF began devising a plan to raid the Mount Carmel compound. In the aftermath of the firefight, David Koresh and several of his followers were injured. David Koresh had sustained a gunshot wound to the abdomen, and the ATF gathered their dead outside. What had happened was a ceasefire, brought on by Stephen Schneider and the Waco County Sheriff communicating. When the dust settled, the Branch Davidians dug in, and shortly thereafter the FBI showed up to take over the scene. The FBI was able to establish a line of communication with Koresh and the Branch Davidians, and for over 50 days, the two communicated back and forth trying to come to a solution. During the first half of the 50 days, the FBI negotiators were able to get around 40 people out of the compound, most of which were children. However, towards the end of the 50 days, the FBI became restless and began using psychological warfare to try to get the Branch Davidians out of the compound. They played loud music and shined bright lights on the compound during the night, making the Branch Davidians sleep-deprived and irritable. This only led to a further breakdown of communications, and less progress was made. On April 19, 1993, Pandora's box was opened and the 51-day siege came to a fiery end. On April 19, 1993, the 51st day of the siege, the FBI deployed CS gas, or tear gas, via tanks with gas extensions. They poked massive holes into the walls of the compound and inserted the tear gas in an effort to drive out the Branch Davidians. However, a fire broke loose inside the compound. It is unknown whether it was accidental or on purpose. This fire killed almost everyone inside, which included 25 children and 51 Branch Davidian adults. In the aftermath of the Waco, Texas standoff, several FBI and ATF officials were fired, and changes were made to the ATF and FBI protocol to try to prevent a similar event such as this from happening in the future. The Waco, Texas standoff has a lot to teach us as human beings about being ourselves, how we could be misled by good intentions and end up in tragedy, how tragedies can be avoided by time, and how dehumanizing something we don't understand can lead to ethical catastrophes. What do you think the ATF should have done? What do you think the Branch Davidians should have done? Leave a comment down below and remember to like and subscribe. This is Garrett with your History Highlights, and thank you for watching.